one of the greatest things about having one of these old classic cars is just being able to get in the car and go for a drive, go for a cruise. You don't even need a particular place to go. But do you ever have that feeling where you're going down the road, hands on the wheel, and just you feel like, man, I could be driving like a semi-truck, you know? Great big steering wheel, thin rimmed. I had to put the Borgeson steering box on the car, quicker ratio, and made a big difference, but still, something was missing from the whole driving experience, you know? And started thinking, like, man, I think a smaller steering wheel would be a great upgrade for this whole experience. But you know, I wanted to keep it stock looking or appearing. PG Classics makes a really nice Tuff Wheel, and the beauty of that one is, you guessed it, it comes in red. So order one up. Why don't we take a look at it? So PG Classics, they're really known for making some high quality reproduction pieces, and they're out of Canada. I reached out to them, and sure enough, they even had this one in stock, so that was great. You know, there's a lot of back orders and delays, and a lot of parts nowadays, but this came in, and let's take a look. You know, a lot of the factory Tuff Wheels, they were made with foam on the outside, and they don't really hold up well, but let's peel this back. Oh, that looks awesome. That red leather. It's one thing I liked about this option is that it's, you know, a leather wrapped wheel. The one thing I have to be really careful though is getting in the car with any dirty fingers with this red leather. Man, black hides everything, right? But all right, well here it is. Finally got all the protective wrapping off of it. They definitely had it packaged really well, and first impressions is it's really nice. I think the leather stitching, the leather has a really good feel. First thought is maybe I wish the diameter out here was just a little bit bigger, like a little more padding maybe. But I think the size of the wheel is going to be just perfect. It looks pretty good. You can see some little marks from manufacturing on the spokes, but overall, I think it looks pretty good. So yeah, I'll have to take it out into the car and see how well it matches. But no, that's cool. That's gonna be a nice improvement. Now, I really wasn't impressed with the factory look of the Tuff Wheel horn, but on the eBodies forum, ebodies.org, there's a guy who makes a custom one. So I reached out to him, and he sent me one. Let's take a look. Yeah. So he makes these with a few different options of, actually you can even blank or script. And I saw one he made for a guy that had the barracuda fish on it. I just thought that was really cool. So I had an idea. So let's take a look. Alright, he had this package really nice. Wow. It looks fantastic. Really nice finish. It's got some weight to it. You can tell this must be all CNC'd, but it's got a real nice smooth finish. That looks fantastic. So now what we'll do is we'll get my factory original wheel off and take a look. Oh yeah, that's pretty cool. Let's figure out how it's all going to attach and bolt together. I know he's mentioned he had some instructions. Wow, alright. Nice large font for those who don't see so well. Alright, let's get the wheel off the car, and first thing we gotta do is take off the 3 little screws on the back side and go from there. It's kind of hard to do this with one hand, but you get the idea. Let's see if I can do this one just blind and guessing. We're going to see if we can get the wheel off without bumping the horn, as it's still connected. I can't see it. All right, 3 screws off, and the center will come right off. There you go, easy. Let's go put this hardware in the bench. Actually, we'll just put it right here for now. Toolbox. Nice. All right, so now we need to get the horn switch off my original wheel. It worked, everything was just fine with it, no problem, so yeah. Takes 3 Phillips head screws. Ah, yeah, that is on there. That's what I was afraid of. Crikey. There we go, there's one. Wow. Oh man, that last one, being bugger. Shoot. Alright, with that cast, train on it. Sometimes you can break them loose with a hammer with a little tap. Alright. Got it. I was getting a little nervous there. But a little penetrating oil, a little WD. Got that off. No problem. Interesting. Alright. As you can see, I disassembled this horn. And you have the outer ring and the inner portion. What a lot of guys did, I noticed online that they'd use this on e-bodies at work, is they would paint this center portion like a black color, like a satin black, or like a almost, I wouldn't say a wrinkle, but maybe textured, or even, I think somebody even powder coated. And then they would put, he offers different emblems. It could be no emblem, or it could be the fish, or I saw him actually do an engraving with Challenger on it as well, but I wanted the fish. But what I wanted to do is try to make this red to match the dash and the column. So what I came up with is, this is really cool. I'm really excited about this. So I reached out to Instrument Specialties, as they are dash restoration. So Instrument Specialties, I'll put a link on them. And I saw online that on their website that they actually have the proper suede finish for your dashes. So I'm like, wow, that would be really cool if I could get some mixed up. And I didn't want a lot. I mean, I didn't want a full quart, and because all I'm planning on doing for now is just, this horn button. Might be excessive, but I think it's the only way I'm going to get a decent match or the right color. But anyway, let me show you what we got. He said that he reached out to a supplier that makes it, and they were able to put it in an aerosol for me. So in the rest, there was some left over, and he put it in this pint can. I probably have, it's probably half full or so. So, you know, I've never seen anybody get suede in an aerosol before, and he told me I was the first person to do it. And it's red. I'm excited. So we're gonna prep the horn button. We're gonna clean it, Scotch-Brite it, etch it, prime it again, and then lay down the suede red. I can't wait to see what this is gonna look like. I'm so excited. This is so cool. So if it turns out as good as I'm hoping, this is gonna really make this look awesome. So let's get going. Alright, so I just finished going over this with the red Scotch-Brite. Now I'm going to go clean up my hands because they're all messy handling the aluminum. And then wipe this down with a wax and grease remover. And then we'll hit it with some etching primer. Alright, we're going to get this thing cleaned up. Man, I hope this turns out as good as I'm hoping. Because that is the most expensive can of paint I've ever bought, that's for sure. It is not cheap. Alright, so this is the Fast Line etching primer. I've used a lot of Fast Line's products when I was doing my car and previous projects, and they make great products, good primers. So got it shaken up really well. So we're going to plan as 2 light coats. One more shake. Okay, it's been 5 minutes, and we're going to go for round 2. The plan is just 2 coats with this, and then we'll top it off with a traditional primer. Alright, I'm going to let this sit up overnight. I'm going to make sure it's good and cured before I do a top coat of primer. And then I'll do the same process before I do the red. So basically let it cure overnight, fully cure. I don't want to rush it. And I've had experiences where you try to do another coat in a couple hours and it just bubbles and doesn't react well. And I don't want to try to sand this again. I'm in no rush right now, so we're going to let it sit. Hit it again tomorrow. So after the etching primer, we're going to hit it with some traditional primer, put a couple coats on it. Give it a good shake already. Alright, let that tack up and we'll do one more coat. I let the horn button fully cure, and now we're going to give the red suede a try. Can't wait to see how this looks, so I'm giving it a good shake. We're going to get after it. Alright, I kept the first coat really light, and it's been about 10 minutes per the application, and we're going to do a second coat. Start doing a little heavier. Alright, that looks pretty good. We're going to let that tack up again. Wait another 10 minutes before we do our third coat. The hardest part is trying to get inside the little crevices for the fasteners, but we'll get it. Yeah, you know, it's looking really good. I like the finish on it, but I do want to do another coat. And hopefully this is it. Alright, it is done. So, I think it came out real nice. I'm happy with how it looks. It's a little darker than like the wheel, that's for sure. But I held it up to my dash and I think it looks pretty close. It has definitely a bit of a slight textured finish. But I think it looks really slick. So, now on to the next part of the assembly process is here's the little fish. So he goes right in these holes, and the way this works is there's no way to attach it. He tells you to use some epoxy to hold the fish down inside these little chamfer holes, and then trim off these tabs so it doesn't interfere with, I guess, the horn ring. So what you need to do is make sure you have this orientated properly. This is actually similar to the rim blow style, where this bolt hole goes down at the 6 o'clock position. So then the fish goes here. If you were to do it backwards, it would go this way, a little off center, and plus this would be at the 12 o'clock. So this goes as such. So what I'm going to do before I put it together and bond it is bond it in, and I'm going to give this guy a little polish job with some little autosaw metal polish, get him nice and shiny, and then we'll bond him in. So alright, well, my little Barracuda fishy came out pretty slick. Nice improvement. Never tried to polish anything that small before, that's for sure. But it looks nice. It's a small piece. And again, I use the auto saw metal polish. It's just a cream type polish. I've used the Mother's Mag and aluminum polish, and it's similar, but I know I do like the auto saw. So anyway, so now our next step is to prep the horn button. This horn, but what they say is the horn switch itself, which, you know, we took off the steering wheel. The top ring has to come off, and the top ring goes on top of the new horn ring, and the bottom plate goes on the back side, so it basically just sandwiches it. So we're going to take off the 3 screws that hold it together, like they show in the instructions, and just re-sandwich the new horn button back together. Alright, I was able to get the first 2 screws out without too much of a pressure. Just had to be real careful. Seemed like they were wanting to turn, but we got them out. So there's that portion. So one thing they mentioned in the instructions is they make these tabs extra long on the little fish, and that you'll have to cut them off after he recommends using epoxy and to hold the fish onto the button. So what I want to do is I basically assembled the top portion, how it's going to sit. I wanted to see how much, see if it actually was going to push the fish out. So it will. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim these off so I can see how much I got to take off these little tabs. The point is I want to take just off just enough, and then leave material on there so I can have something to bite onto and do the epoxy. On the back side of the button, there is a little chamfer in there to help hold some of the epoxy. So it's going to be apparently a pretty tight fit there, not a lot of room for clearance. Use some snippers. Snip this thing off a little at a time here. Still coming through quite a bit, so there must not be much clearance there, if any. I don't know. Maybe I'll try to take a little squeeze in there to see if there's any room. Alright, so after a bit of work, I was able to get these cut down and then used a hand file to get them to the right length that I needed, so they wouldn't be hitting this surface here. They're pretty much can't be sticking proud with the back side of this guy. So what we're going to do now is I just mixed up some JB Weld. That's what they recommend. Well, they recommend using epoxy to put a little bit on the back of the tabs in these little chamfered recesses. I don't love that idea, but I don't have many options, just because if I ever want to take this thing off and like repaint it down the road or touch it up, it's going to be a challenge, right? Try to get the JB Weld off there. That's what it looks like on the back side, right? So I'm just going to lay it upside down. Okay, and then put a little dab in there and won't take much. Alright, it's on. I'm going to wipe off the extra. We'll see how that sets up. I'm going to give it plenty of time because there's not a lot of material in there. Alright, so there it is, all epoxied up and cured. I ended up having to sand a little bit of extra epoxy I had off the back so it sits nice and flush and doesn't rock. There's really no room for clearance between the horn button and the adapter here, or the two pieces of the horn button. And looking at the assembly, I noticed one problem I'm going to have to address. It's a simple one, but the horn switch, which bolts to your wheel, has these two little Alright, so what we're going to do is hold the little adapter in place right over the existing holes, flip it over. Thankfully, these locating holes are just big enough to where I can get my Sharpie in there. Put two little red dots. Take it off, transfer, and that's where my holes need to be. I need to drill out. So you can use a center punch or just a drill, but before you drill on this metal, you want to get a little mark, just get your drill bit located. Alright, so we got a block of wood underneath it so we don't drill a hole, well, and another hole in my workbench. We've got it clamped down to help hold it, and we're just going to put a couple holes in here. I like to use a bigger drill bit. Put it in there, give it a little chamfer, deburr it. Let's see how it looks. Just another big question. There you go, that looks perfect. Alright, so one thing that I did notice is after doing some research and a little digging here with through my tap set, is it looks like the PG wheel is 4-40. It threads in there. And the factory wheel is 632 fits. So again, just sorry about that. One size too small. So the right thing to do is just open the new wheel and run this tap through there, being real careful not to snap it off in there because it's small stuff. And, yep, that's the plan. That was not fun. With such a small tap and such a thick gauge of steel, it took a while. You could only turn it maybe like 10 degrees, 15 degrees, and you could hear it cut through the metal, the tap, and then it would just like bind up. You'd have to back it out or bring it all the way out to clear out all the threads. I just was so afraid of that little tap breaking. I don't know if you've ever had a tap break in a job, but that is no fun. That was the last thing I wanted. So I just took my time and didn't rush it. Got them all tapped out. So now we're good. What I want to do now is take a quick minute to go over the differences of the wheel. So the factory wheel, the OD measures 15 3/4. And the new PG Classics wheel measures 14 3/8. So it's a good bit smaller in diameter. And then let's look at, if we just take a width, it is 0.65 versus the new wheel is 1.15. So I would call it 1 1/4. So it's a lot thicker, it's smaller, has a really nice leather wrapped wheel. So that's how they compare. And now we're all ready to go bolt these in the car. So the first thing we're going to do is going to bolt the wheel on, and then after that we're going to have to hook up the horn switch and bolt all this assembly together, and then bolt this to the wheel, and then the button goes on last. And putting the wheel on. Okay, all set up. You know, the wheel uses these little nuts with, you know, a chamfered, kind of like a little acorn. Okay, now we're ready to put all this together. So we need our horn switch and our adapter. And we have to make sure our adapter is keyed properly. There you go. We run the horn switch up through it. We're going to connect it. Alright, cool. And now we have to align all this mess up. Plus I want that. There's a lot going on here. Alright, making progress. Just snugging up the horn switch screws in the back. And then you're going to use the other 3 screws to go right through all this to the wheel. Oh. How the hell? I think I got one started. That's a freaking miracle. Now I need to get the center little feature. And now this is gonna so that will snug up the horn ring, and I still have to snug up those 3 screws that I just put in. And hopefully I have everything all centered right for that little fishy. Let's test out the horn real quick. Alright, cool. Alright, now the finishing touch. Oh boy, hopefully this all fits. Yeah. That's awesome. Alright. Be a little careful not to scratch anything here or muck this up. Yeah, this was definitely a little more challenging than putting the original horn and wheel on and off. I mean, the original one you could be Ray Charles and do it. I love Ray Charles, nothing against him, but man, oh man, this one's just a little trickier, that's all. Follow the instructions, like I said, read the instructions over and over again, and it kind of makes sense. Or I should say it does make sense. So his instructions are clear. It's just a little bit of a complicated assembly, but not bad. Not bad. Boom. Oh, that's awesome. That looks nice. There it is. Final assembly, all finished. Totally changed the look of the vehicle. I absolutely love it. Now if you're wondering why it might look a little bit brighter, well, if you haven't seen any of my other videos, the guy who bought this car or pulled it out of storage, he ended up dyeing these seats and the dash pad as well as the door panels, and they're a little darker than what I think they should be. You can see the carpet is new, and that's the bright correct red, and even like the visors that I put in a recent video, those are brighter too. So kind of got a little slight two tones going on here, but I'm going to address the seat covers and the dash pad soon, but that'll be another project. But I'm just really loving the steering wheel, man. That's awesome. The suede paint. Can't thank the guys over at Instrument Specialties enough for doing that for me. I know it was kind of a unique request. And Mike at New Par from ebodies.org. Great product. I like the horn. Real nice guy. Had good communication with him on a couple questions I had. Great guy. So that's it for this video. Hope you enjoyed it. And please like and subscribe if you haven't yet. And let me know in the comments below what you thought of it, because this video is a little bit longer, I know, but I really wanted to go into the detail of doing a project like this, because there are some things that I found that I think you'll find useful if you try to duplicate it. Now, next video is gonna be pretty cool. I have a big announcement coming for the channel and for the car, and that's gonna be coming up next week, so don't miss it and look for it. I'll see you guys next time.